Ukrainian FPV drones massacre a group of Russian infantry at night. More of Ukraine's first-person view drones see at night, thanks to tiny infrared sensors that see in the infrared part of the spectrum and can detect the heat generated by a human body. There's a simple method to hide from these exploding night vision drones, however. Thermal blankets, which contain body heat, can help a wearer blend in with the cooler nighttime landscape. Consider recent thermal blanket failures along the 100 km front line of Russia's 39-month wider war on Ukraine. On Wednesday night, a squad of Russian infantry moved toward positions held by the Ukrainian Army's 63rd Mechanized Brigade near the city of Lyman. The Russians all wore thermal blankets over their shoulders. But the blankets actually worked too well. The 63rd Mechanized Brigade's night vision FPV drones easily spotted the approaching Russians not by their heat, visible as bright spots on the drones' infrared sensors, but by their lack of heat, the cold spots among the surrounding foliage. A barrage of FPVs rained down on the Russians, who almost certainly couldn't see the lethal drones coming. The funny occupiers in the Lyman region put on anti-drone raincoats and thought that now they are safe. The 63rd Mechanized Brigade quipped, a photo apparently depicting the morning aftermath of the Wednesday night massacre revealed multiple impacts from FPVs and 5 or 6 discarded thermal blankets, some potentially concealing dead Russians. A second photo depicted 5 sprawled Russian bodies. The Russians assaulting Lyman chose the cheaper blankets and paid for it with their lives. Another Russian assault group had effective blankets, but wore them wrong. Their limbs and heads poked out, radiating detectable heat and drawing the attention of FPV drones. These Russians' mistake is understandable. Because a thermal blanket traps heat, it can be very uncomfortable, especially during the summer. Russian troops have been wearing thermal blankets for at least 2 years, but the blankets were rare early on. It is doubtful that the enemy can supply these anti-thermal blankets/coats on a significant scale. To Taragami, even if they can only be utilized by small groups or sniper teams, they still pose a potential threat. With wider adoption, more Russians are undoubtedly hiding from Ukrainian drones. The Russian frustration grows bigger with every day due to the lack of advances, shortage of supplies, and a disastrous kill-to-loss ratio. This has forced Russian commanders to order even more desperate attacks, with Russian soldiers being turned into unintentional suicide bombers by essentially carrying explosive vests with them during assaults. In the Lyman direction, Russian forces have found themselves hopelessly stuck, unable to advance despite relentless infantry assaults. The repeated frontal attacks have become disastrously costly, leading to massive casualties at unprecedented rates. In addition, frontline Russian units are starved of supplies, making it impossible to sustain effective combat operations. In multiple engagements, Ukrainian drone operators have observed Russian soldiers being sent forward, carrying individual mortar rounds to deliver to mortar crews on their way to the front, a desperate measure indicating a total logistical breakdown and highlighting the grim conditions Russian troops face in this sector. Geolocated video evidence has extensively documented how Russian forces continually get bogged down in front of Ukrainian defenses. Immobilized by dense minefields, carefully placed caltropes, and relentless drone strikes, Ukrainian drone operators from the 63rd Mechanized Brigade have become exceptionally proficient at hunting down and neutralizing isolated Russian assault groups at night, with one crew eliminating 23 enemy soldiers in one night. Whenever Russian troops manage to briefly occupy new positions, swift Ukrainian counterattacks and drone bombardments immediately push them back or eliminate them. This cycle of attrition leaves Russian infantry units trapped in a futile loop of unsuccessful and deadly assaults. This extreme frustration has led Russian commanders and soldiers to adopt increasingly desperate and reckless methods. One striking phenomenon captured repeatedly in battlefield footage is the unintended emergence of kamikaze-like Russian soldiers. In a released video, a Russian soldier was running to assault Ukrainian positions with a grenade in his hand, but when Ukrainian troops met him with heavy fire, he began to retreat, fell on his grenade, and blew himself up. Instead of reconsidering their reckless tactics, the Russian command doubled down on the idea.
Все, пошел за ним. Давай, давай, давай. Небо, небо, смотрим. Выстрел! Выстрел!
Ukrainian FPV drones blow up 14 Russian vehicles and troops outside Pokrovsk. Early days, a Russian force with no fewer than 25 vehicles and potentially hundreds of troops attacked positions manned by the Ukrainian Army's 24th Mechanized Brigade around Pokrovsk, a fortress city in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk Oblast. On paper, it was a powerful force including BMD fighting vehicles. And in theory, the Russian commander launched his attack at the right time, under the cover of the early morning darkness. But a year after beginning the long march toward Pokrovsk from the ruins of Avdiivka, 25 miles to the east, the Russians no longer have the initiative on this axis. They've lost thousands of troops and hundreds of vehicles they're struggling to replace. Ukrainian road cutter drones harry the main supply lines to the Russian field armies, the 2nd, 8th, and 41st Combined Arms Armies, among others, around Pokrovsk. Worst for the Russians, the 24th Mechanized Brigade and adjacent units in and around Pokrovsk have fire control over the front line, despite suffering vexing shortages of infantry. The Russians who attacked on Thursday morning were spotted by a drone with an infrared camera and then mutt with warmth, the 24th Mechanized Brigade reported. Infantry, artillery, and drone crews did everything to make the invaders' journey unforgettable. As the sun rose and the smoke and dust cleared, 14 of the attacking BMDs and other vehicles were destroyed or immobilized. The rest retreated, 5 of them damaged. At least 33 Russians died, according to the 24th Mechanized Brigade. Ukraine's first-person view drones, which Ukrainian workshops produce at a rate of more than 2 million a year, have proved decisive. Russia also produces millions of drones, but they're of lower quality, and all but the best fiber optic models are highly susceptible to Ukrainian jamming. According to the Ukrainian Center for Defense Strategies, Ukrainian drones are now responsible for 85% of the destruction inflicted on Russian forces, up from 50% last summer. Repeatedly defeating Russian attacks on Pokrovsk, the Ukrainians haven't just blunted the 2nd, 8th, and 41st Combined Arms Army's momentum, they reversed it in some areas. Russian assaults are down from up to 60 per day to as few as 18, CDS concluded. And in recent days, Ukrainian forces advanced on the eastern outskirts of Shevchenkove, just south of Pokrovsk. The advance comes at a critical moment in the geopolitics around Russia's wider war on Ukraine. On the other hand, Ukrainian warriors from the Ronin's attack drone company, part of the 65th Mechanized Brigade, destroyed 3 Russian occupation forces' air defense systems in the Zaporizhia sector in just one day. On social media, the unit posted a video showing the destruction of 3 enemy anti-aircraft missile systems at once, 1 Tor and 2 Buk. It is noted that the drones used in the attack were supplied by the community of Ukrainian volunteer Serhiy Isternenko. The volunteer emphasized that the operators' skill and the fact that drones are supplied upon individual requests according to the specific tasks of each unit play a significant role in striking such targets behind enemy lines. It should be noted that the destruction of 3 enemy SAM systems within a day is an extremely remarkable result that demonstrates the high level of efficiency of the unit. When it comes to striking targets deep behind enemy lines, it's worth mentioning an interesting episode from earlier this year that also involved the destruction of enemy air defense systems. This refers to the Pantsir surface-to-air missile and anti-aircraft artillery system, as well as the OSA SAM system, both of which were destroyed by FPV drones. However, the point was that these drones were launched from a surface drone. Warriors of the Kharkiv Border Guard unit destroyed 5 enemy positions and an occupant vehicle. In addition, the military prevented the launch of a Russian drone. This was reported by the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine on Saturday. Hawks of the Kharkiv Border Guard unit on the hunt. FPV drones destroyed 5 enemy positions, the message says. Ukrainian forces continued to dominate the battlefield with UAV strikes. Ukrainian troops from the 28th Mechanized Brigade have reportedly dealt a significant blow to Russian forces by destroying the BTR-82A armored personnel carrier. The operation was executed using a kamikaze drone strike, with accompanying video footage capturing the dramatic moment of impact. The strike highlights the innovative use of unmanned aerial vehicles in modern warfare, providing Ukrainian forces with a tactical edge on the battlefield. This development is yet another indication of how rapidly evolving technology is reshaping war dynamics, even as hostilities continue. As the war endures, operations like this underscore the resilience and adaptability of Ukrainian forces in the face of formidable challenges. In the days following the press conference, Trump's administration halted further U.S. aid to Ukraine and also ended intelligence sharing between Washington and Kyiv. Trump insisted Zelensky and Ukraine are not in a very good position. But that's objectively untrue. Along much of the 800-mile front line in Ukraine and western Russia, the Russians have recently made some gains in western Russia's Kursk Oblast. But in eastern Ukraine, and especially around Pokrovsk, it's the Ukrainians who are gaining.